So the title of the session is Roles Required for Providing Operation Indicators to 500 People. Thank you so much for your time today. In this session, I'll talk about the important roles required for data use project with project use cases. Specific analytical methods and infrastructures do serve a key role in data use project, but in this session, the focus is what kind of roles are required in using data and what benefit we can enjoy by defining such roles. Let me introduce myself. My name is Hariyama of Line Fukuoka. I belong to Data Lab and Development Center in charge of supporting data infrastructure and data analysis to drive data utilization in Line Fukuoka. This is what I would like to actually share with you today. There are 9 roles required for data utilization project, and then the project scaling issues can be solved by team based on roles. So the seminars and study sessions with focus on the data utilizations, the focus on the organization is a trend, but in this session is really focusing on actually one step before that. And then in order to fix the problem and the project scale, what kind of things we can address. Here is the agenda. First, I will talk about Line Fukuoka briefly, followed by data utilization project in Line Fukuoka where I belong. So this project is actually the use case to define the data utilization. And after that, I would like to actually talk about in each roles needed for the data utilization. And I hope you can pay attention to like what kind of roles they are in this context. And I would like to talk about how to solve the project, the scaling issues by roles, followed by the current issue and future planning. Let me dive into the topic. First is about Line Fukuoka. And Line Fukuoka is the second outlet hub in Japan, operating multiple businesses, including design, operation, development, and others. It's a different entity from Line Corporation. Among the Line Fukuoka, the largest team is operation, covering the customer care, monitoring, reviews, localization, and operation direction. What you usually use as a part of the line service or provided by the Line Fukuoka for its operation. And now I would like to talk about the data utilization project in Line Fukuoka. Even before this project launched, there was an issue on a KPI management. There was no data infrastructures to collect data in the first place. Each department collected data in its own way to tally KPIs. Also, the collected KPI indicators are not necessarily comprehensive. We would find work volume and work quality, but no data and productivity. There were missing data, after all. In addition, people didn't have a mindset to leverage data. Only responsible people in charge of the KPI in that department knew how to define them and interpret the given result. The rest of the members in the department didn't understand the KPI that much. So that's the reason why this data utilization project launch called VIIM, or Visualization Improvement Management. It's been 2.5 years since its launch. Under this project, we tried to visualize all kinds of the service management and KPI, helping the KPI management. And this project is actually the cross-functional project. In order to visualize the operation-related data, we need the features and the functions from different departments. But there was any one single department dedicated to this, so we needed and the help from the different departments. These are the participating departments. So, in summary, value management team is in charge of the business improvement in management support in Line Fukuoka. IT promotion is the team with a full knowledge of the internal system and internal infrastructure. Global operation is within the IT in charge of the operation system planning development, and it does have knowledge on the RPA And data lab, which I belong to, has a knowledge of the data analysis and data engineering. So all these are a part of the project. The specific output is the dashboard for the operation in this Veeam project. This is just the image. But for the customer care and monitoring, we prepare the respective dashboard, including the volumes and quality and productivity to make sure that no information is missed out. Here is the size of the project. The project started as a small team, spending the next 2.5 years, scaling and expanding gradually. At the initial stage, that number of the dashboard are only 10, but now we have over 300, and then the number of the dashboard increased from 20 to 500. So we don't add a new dashboard haphazardly, by the way. New addition goes through examination and integration related dashboard. So here are the success factors of a project scaling. So this is related to the data utilization. So we defined 9 roles for data utilization project and also organized project team based on the roles. And also we utilize role to solve the issues of project scaling. These are the reason to be able to successfully pull off the project scaling. So the next page will cover the list of the teams and their responsibility. So here is the list of the roles and assignment. There are total 9 roles, and 9 roles are assigned to 4 departments. And then the decision criteria is based on the department missions and their knowledge and skills. And if the one role is too big to be taken by the one single department, multiple departments sometimes take care of it. And from now on, I'll talk about the roles required for the data utilization project. In the case of the data utilization, there is actually a work to be done before data collection and a work to be done after the collection. The work before data collection is named a project setup, which serves as a project framework. After that, the flow goes through data collection, data manipulation, and data visualization and analysis. Let me explain the role as referring to relevant process. The name of the role may be different from the generic name. Please focus on its role, not the name, please. There are roles required in the project setup. The first role is data strategy. In the lead to the project launch, we needed to set the project goals and figure out how to materialize them. It shouldn't be the vague goal like a data visualization for business improvement. It should be specific on goal and approach to hit the goal. Here a data strategy comes in. Related job time would be data strategist. To deal with the data, needs to define data management policies and rules. That's the role of data governance. What type of data the project will handle and what are the potential risks should be identified to define the rules. By the way, data governance in this context is a role within the project. We do have a dedicated security department and a legal department team to organize company-wide rules. Data governance first communicates with the related teams in the company to decide the rules for the secure data usage within the project. And then the set rule should be applied from the beginning until the end of the entire project. So the related job type would be data manager. And then the data strategy, data governance are defined. And now we can start the system development. First of all, the data infrastructure, then the BI tools we need to design the entire system, which is taken care of by the data architect. So the data strategy is expected the project, the speed and the size needs to be defined. So that related job type would be solution architect. By the way, this is actually the system architectures adopted for the Veeam project. So collecting the data from the unnecessary system and then store them in these the places. And these are actually the DB. BI tools is used. BI tool is a Tableau, and the Airflow is the one for the workflow management and the data collection and manipulation, and DB is MySQL. And here is the data infrastructure to develop the system. So setting up the BI tool for the project, and then the set up the DB, and also prepare the workflow tool for the data integration. The related job type is data platform engineers. Up to here is now ready for the data to be used. But we can't really jump into the collection of data because we don't want to miss out any unnecessary data. So that we need to consider like a secondary use and a tertiary use of the data. Considering the future, like a further usage of the data, we need to think about the entire flow of the data. And then here comes the data planning as a related job. So visualization and analysis planning is done, and also the management, the progress management is done here. So the related job type is data planner. Once the data planning is done, the data needs to be unloaded. So the data ingestion is responsible for that, collect and ingest data into the data. And if we can API, it will be easier, but with some restrictions, then we would actually use RPA, data injection, depending on the type of the system. We figure out the best ways to load the data. And the related job time is data engineer and analytics engineers. Once the data comes into the relevant place, then we need to build the data warehouse and a data mart following the data planning. That is a data warehouse and data mart as a process. So do the data loading and then execute the data. So the BM project actually covered up to the data warehouse, but considering the 3-layer structure of the data mart, we need to actually just to pull it off. The related job type is analytics engineers. Finally, we're ready after the thorough preparation, and this is a data visualization. And then the visualization is done by this process data visualization. Visualize data based on the data planning is one thing, and also the supported KPI management of the users if the necessary things are missed out there. It's not just creating the dashboard. Related job type here is data analyst. So the last part is data analysis. Compares to the data visualization, which is to visualize the everyday indicators, but data analysis is more like ad hoc tallies and analysis. This is more like for the planning and other purposes. It depends on the skills that person have, but related job type would be the data analysis for the operation of the business related knowledge, but statistical the methodologies required. In that case, data scientist is the one. So here is the quick summary. As a part of the role in the framework of the project, data strategy and data governance, data architecture, data infrastructures are defined. All these 4 are needed before the data collection starts, especially the data strategy and data governance on the roles specifically clearly defined. Otherwise, we will miss the direction that the project would be heading to. And then in some cases, we may use the data which we shouldn't have used, and that would cause a big problem later. And then after that, we need a data planning, data ingestion, data warehouse, data mart, data visualization, and data analysis. The data planning is something that you forget often. It is very important because accumulated data should be taken as an asset. Thinking about the future usage of the data, we need to set a plan of each of the data usage. So up to here is that the explanation of each one of the role in terms of the data utilization. Now I would like to talk about how to solve the project, the scaling issue by roles. First of all, the organization. establishment. This is actually the first issue that we need to address at the project launch. If there is one particular department dedicated to that purpose, it would be great. But if there isn't such department, you need to actually communicate with the multiple different departments, and what kind of things you need to communicate would be the challenge for you. So in order to fix the issue, that's roll tables would be very useful. Looking into the different department and do the mapping as to complete the team organization. And this is what we actually did with the actual use cases. It was quite a volume, so I'll just roughly go through it.
And the data strategy has the value management, who has a skill. And the second data governance is the value management, and data lab will be splitting the job. And for the data governance, not just understanding the internal rule, but also need to understand the scale of the technology. And therefore, data lab is in charge. And the third, the data actor, the data insight is needed, and data infrastructure needs to have the ID promotion. And the fifth, data planning, the data value management and data lab are doing that together. And value management plans the analysis and also to do the data processing, and the data lab will think about how to process them. The data ingestion, IT promotion, and global operation are doing this. And from the DB, the data needs to be acquired. And also from API, the promotion. And if you need IPA, then global operation is in charge. Seventh, the data warehouse, data mod. The data modeling inside is held by data lab. Number 8, data visualization, and 9, data analysis. Value management does this, and out of data analysis, the statistical and machine learning method may be needed, therefore data lab will be in charge. So in advance, we define the roles we need, and we will look at the possible department so that we will be able to form a project team without missing any roles. Next, I'd like to talk about the issue for collecting data. In order to collect the data, you need the necessary data and the necessary amount. Data is risk as well, so try not to gather wasteful data. Especially there may be the private information and need to check whether it falls under the private information, and if so, need to identify the scope of the risk. And also not just the system person in charge, but also we need a permission from data owner who can make a business judgment. So gathering data will need to consider many different perspectives. And thus, you may have to do the data collection once again, or maybe in the data there is some data that is not ought to be there, therefore the project may be stopped. And at the time of the collection of data, you need to look into these carefully in order to stabilize the project. The BEAM project uses this division of roles to address issues during data collection. For the data planning, determines the scope of current and future-oriented data acquisition and ensure that unnecessary data is not acquired in the first place. Next, the data governance will check with the company's information security department to determine the risk of personal information. And if the data with a high risk judgment is absolutely necessary, we will discuss the information security on how to manage the data, such as by partially masking the data to lower the risk. Permission is obtained from the data owner by data governance, explaining the risk and controls of the data to be collected for the data planning. And if you identify the data and data risk, then the data governance is going to explain how to acquire data, and data governance will talk about the benefit now and in the future. And for the issues of collecting data, data governance will work together so that we can prevent the problem from happening. Next, after the data collection, the issues arise the accountability of data. The data is collected, and within DV, various data is stored, and project members will not be able to keep track of what data is where. If this situation persists, the entire project may be halted because of the inability to answer questions from internal audits regarding project risk. Therefore, it must be possible to explain at any time what kind of data is being collected and which column or which table contains relevant data. And the BEAM project is responding to this challenge by introducing data catalog. I'd like to briefly explain what the data catalogs. Within the DV, there's data stored, and this is to manage DV in units of table and column, and information about this may be entered or additional information may be entered for data utilization. Since the data catalog is to be used by each person in each role in the project for their own purpose, the requirements are requested by each role, and data infrastructure is responsible for the actual implementation of the data catalog. Since an in-house tool with similar functionality already existed for the VM project, data catalog was implemented by modifying the existing tool. And the next challenge during data visualization and analysis was the issue of managing the authorization of users to view the output. It's necessary to determine who is allowed to view. And next, the issues for analysis and visualization about the user's right management. And by dashboard, you need to judge who is allowed to access the dashboard so that we can manage rights appropriately. But the number of departments served increases. There is a limit to how finely tuned the permissions can be on the development side. In fact, since now Fukuoka frequently undergoes organizational changes and personal transfers, it became impractical as a number of dashboards and users to be managed increased for the BEAM project. Therefore, we decided to establish an authority management system that also involved the user side of the dashboard. Data governance will create a authorization management manual and delegate management authority to the user department manager. The user department is responsible for viewing the dashboard based on their own judgment and responsibility in accordance with user department's manual. To check the adequacy of user management on the BEAM project side, data visualization will create a dashboard to check the usage of the dashboard, and data governance will use it to check the usage of the account. By establishing such a system, we are able to manage authorization with a certain level of quality, even as the number of dashboard and user increases. The last change on scale we will introduce is the increase in overall task volume. As is the case with the management of dashboard permissions mentioned earlier, as the number of dashboard provided and the number of users increases, the number of additional tasks will gradually increase. And here too, if you have managed dashboard, you will understand how it increases easily. And so the dashboard managed increased 30 or 25 times. Typically, the number of project members has only increased 1.6 times. This is because the clarity of roles makes it easier for members to develop their skills. And in addition, it is easy to attract the necessary human resources from both sides and outside the company. Now, this shows whatever skills or capability you may have, you'll be able to judge who fit the project and will be able to reduce the risk of mismatching the resources and the project. And I have so far talked about the main topic of the rules required for data utilization and the effectiveness. Currently, the BEAM project is successfully scaling because the definition and the division of role is working. However, it is not uh, we have been able to stabilize the project successfully. And so far, I have talked about the data utilization and the effectiveness. Currently, the BEAM project is going well, very smooth, and because we have the right division of role. However, we have some challenges as well, and I will end my presentation by mentioning the challenges we are facing and future plans to resolve them. And the current challenge is increasing complexity of data governance tasks. I think the role of data governance has appeared frequently in my explanation. In addition to the original broad scope of data governance tasks, the rules themselves are becoming more complex as more stringent management systems regarding private information are required these days. In addition, based on the increasingly complex rule, the contents of consultation with information security and legal affairs has become more specialized. And on the other hand, under the current structure of the BEAM project, data governance is shared by the value management team and data lab, each of which also has a separate role. Therefore, we believe it will be difficult for value management and data labs to continue to have the data governance role while still having the roles in the future. That might become the bottleneck. As a future policy for dealing with the increasing complexity, Fukuoka has a department, and we are thinking about the department participating in the initiatives. And the data governance department here is different. And although a data governance department already exists in the data governance, but there is no data governance in Line Fukuoka. So we need the data governance for Line Fukuoka. And if we are successful, we'll be able to do this smoothly at Line Fukuoka. And the Line Fukuoka has some KPI issues, but we are solving the KPI management. But we can contribute more by using data such as the data foundation project team and the internal connection be used more effectively so that Line Fukuoka can become more data driven. And this concludes my presentation, but I will end with recap of the main points discussed earlier in the meeting. This presentation illustrated the importance of defining roles and organizing teams based on those roles in order to scale data utilization project. In the BEAM project mentioned as a specific example, the team was organized with an awareness of the division of roles from the beginning of the project, and by addressing issues, the team succeeded in achieving stable scale. I believe what I have discussed today will be helpful in a wide range of situations where data is used in addition to the use of data for operational work handled by the VM project. Thank you very much for your attention. Mr. Harayama, thank you very much. We have press talk, and we will invite interviewer, and the interviewer will ask some of the points that he was interested in order to deep dive the session. As much as possible, we'd like to entertain questions from the viewers. If you have any question, please post your question from the question mark on the right-hand side below. Please send us questions. And the interviewer is Tatsuki Ujino from Yahoo Japan. Mr. Ujino, will you introduce yourself? Thank you for your introduction. I am Ujino from Yahoo Japan. I am working for data service department and doing the commerce and ads for Yahoo Japan, and also for the data utilization and the data maintenance, and also the company-wide data maintenance. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Then Mr. Uchino, as you listen to the session, anything that you would like to ask? Harayama-san, thank you for your presentation. At Yahoo Japan, I am also doing the maintenance of data for data utilization myself. So as I was listening to, I had some things that I thought common between us. And from the start of the project, you have defined the roles, and I thought that was excellent. And what typically happens is that you decide KPIs and you tend to consolidate data. That is a typical approach that people take. But this time, clearly, you define roles. And why could you define the roles clearly? Well, because of the convenience of the project, we had to define roles from the first place. We thought otherwise the project will not be successful. I belong to Line Fukuoka, and I am there's a data lab that does the data analysis, but they do not provide all the functions for data utilization. So if you want to manage KPI, we need to educate different departments at Line Fukuoka. So we wanted to define the roles, and we asked certain roles to certain department. Otherwise, we could not form a project team. So in that sense, we defined roles. Another reason is KPI management. Once we start managing KPI, we can't say halfway to give up. So if we decide to manage KPI, we must be successful. So that's why we thought we need to define roles. And at the phase of the project proceeds, we thought we need to have some plan so that we may run out of the resources or may have to delay the task that we ought to, and the project may fail halfway. Therefore, we thought that a defining role from the first place is important. Understand. And then there are 4 major organizations, and they are playing 7 roles across the company. And in doing so, did you need to coordinate, or did you have any problem communicating across functions and any difficulties that you have gone through? Well, in the beginning, there are different roles and missions. And so if we don't have mutual understanding of each other, maybe there's certain time that we felt that communication was difficult. But from the beginning, we decided to do the weekly meeting. So we have done a few tens of or more than 100 regular meetings. So we are trying to communicate frequently so that we are now understanding each other. And there are 4 different teams that belong to, but it's almost like a one united beam project. I see.
So among the 9 roles, you put the circle and assign to each of the department anybody felt comfortable, because each department's skills are really cleared, and each department is more like proactive to say, oh, we can take care of this and that. So the beam KPI project is extremely important, especially for the executives. In order to materialize this project, how much of the commitment, how did you actually build a consensus among the executives? How did you communicate with the executives? I belong to Data Lab, and there's another team participating in this project, Value Management team. It was a mission of the corporate affairs in corporate planning. It's more like a corporate perspective. So at the outset, we've already communicated to the executive teams what we want to do and how we want to do. And every time we gain some kind of the outcomes, we share them as an accomplishment. So there wasn't any like heavy presentation given to the executive in a different occasion, but it's more like a day-to-day communication disseminating among the executives. And also, we have like customer cares and auditing, and we did need to receive and support from the manager of each one of the related sections. So every one of the managers needed to receive the thorough explanation, and they should feel comfortable to be a part of this project. Besides the commitment from the executive, and that's the reason why we can pull it off as a team. And you have 9 roles defined. But for example, the governance, you put like a 2 circled, one for value management and a data lots. And I think the 2 teams are taking care of the data government. How did you actually decide which is the owner of the data governance between these 2 departments, and what kind of communication these 2 teams have? So yeah, in the case of the data management, value management, and data labs are assigned, but the coordinators was done by value management, but more like a details, data-related technologies, or other very like a professional data in a skill sets, or more like it taken care of by the data labs. Maybe it's just not really written clear definition, but the organization-wise value management actually came in the front, but the technology-wise, that was more like assigned to the data labs. So it was always clear that which one actually taking the ownership and which should be in a supporting position. Yeah, the allocation of the roles were defined. Thank you. So you have 500 users versus 300 dashboards. It seems like the data has been fully utilized to quite a degree. So, for example, the manager sometimes delegate the authority of the dashboards to somebody, right? So, what about the democratization of the data and the governance? You have to actually have a fine balance between them. Is there any like a particular thing is that you pay attention to in order to have a fine balance? Maybe it will be already covered, but the delegation of authority is the one key thing because it's better not to put too much on the one person's plate. Like a stretched resource, not enough people is one thing. But when it comes to delegation of the authority, what really matters is that business decision needs to come in here. As this person is in charge of this particular business, so that the this authority should be given and delegated to this person. And maybe the manager is only one person who know that and who can make a right decision. And that's what we have done before. Because of that, you could actually pull it off with a limited number of the resources and the team members.
And at the last part of your session, the data governance is very complicated task, you said, and also you did have the dedicated data governance team. And generally speaking, if you create data governance team, people tend to be conservative, but you said it was a governance team with the mission of data utilization for promptly or proactively. Well, the data governance team is not yet formed. I see. So that is a future. But as you said, if we are too defensive and if we want to be too conservative, we won't be able to make progress. But if you're going to start up the data governance team, we have to think about how to securely utilize the data. So we must have the offensive aspect of the team. Like Fukuoka doesn't have, but the Line Corp has a data governance team already. And they are also an offensive department. And so they have the mindset of utilizing data proactively. So we try not to be too defensive, and we have to have the proactive attitude of utilizing data. I see. And you made a data mart from data lake, and you need to ingest data to the data lake, and that it's not data lab, but the IT operation and global operation team did that. That's what I understood. And so if it goes to the data lake, not the data lab, but other department does it, is it because of the data format differences? Are there any issues as a different data format? Yes, if you ask so, maybe the roles are different, and therefore, for the use of low data, once the data lab needs to ask data operation, or so there is one extra step. But when it is put into the data lake, we don't process the data, but we just bring them as is and put them without any processing. That's how we do the ingesting. Therefore, for the contents of the data lab, understand the details of the data. That's how we share the role. IT promotion and global operations do not think about the details of the meanings of the data column, but rather try to have the pipeline or the flow to ingest data smoothly. So for the data utilization data lab will think about the roles, and if they have any concern, maybe through data or IT operation, they will work together with other departments and ask the meanings of the category. I see. So the data knowledge and domain knowledge lie with the data lab, so they understand, they know what is the right data structure, and they convert them to the right data structure for the data model. I'd like to add the data utilization and also the purpose or the needs of user are different. And in the data planning, the data love and data management are in there, so there are redundant roles. And if you think about modeling data, value management will also be involved, and so there are possible data needs. So we need to set the dimensions or need to model this way. So they have the discussions to do the ETL processing. Thank you. Lastly, the KPI dashboard. The KPI may be helpful or it may be successful or may be failing. So do you need to do the extensive recognition? Or I think that will be the future trend. And what is the outlook for the beam and or the ambitious goal in the midterm or long run? As much as you can share. Well, the KPI, visualize KPI, and also for analysis by creating dashboard to some extent. The indicator for modeling shown with graph, but also need to have an analytical perspective. So there is volume and also can show the breakdown and need to create a separate dashboard. So you need to have the purpose of analysis to create the dashboard. So we are trying to do some sort of analysis in the first place, but there's something that is missing, and so you need to go into the site and think and take. We haven't been able to analyze each action plan yet. So the next ambition of the VIM is to get into the department on site and think about the action plan and analysis. And the visual plan and analysis are separate, but we need to enhance analysis.
Understood. Thank you.